Earlier today, I listened to Dr. Fiona Hunter speaking to Bob McDonald on CBC. And I reached out to her and she corresponded with me, which was great. She sent me a paper she wrote called "Linking Only Aedes aegypti with Zika Virus Has Worldwide Public Health Implications." In her interview with Bob McDonald, she addressed just species in Canada that she was able to study. And I want to make it known that some of the most ethical researchers working on the Zika virus are not being funded by our government. And this is very disturbing. Now, here's part of what her paper said. Zika virus is an emerging arbovirus in the Americas, and as such, we know far less about the mosquito species involved in transmission than many experts, public health authorities, and politicians would have the public believe. So she is fully aware of what is going on. Here's another sentence. Novel strategies for controlling Aedes aegypti using Wolbachia-infected males, or Ozotec males, Jacob and Walker, 2016, target only Aedes aegypti. If Zika transmission is not being driven by Aedes aegypti, then these strategies will fail to protect people from Zika. Now, it was just a couple days ago that I understand more Wolbachia-infected mosquito releases are happening in Fresno, California. And they're going to be releasing, what, 1 million a week or something at a set schedule. This is really troublesome because in Mexico, there's a team of researchers there have determined 3 species, not just one, 3 species of Culex are Zika vectors. Including Culex tarsalis, which when I researched it, I discovered Culex tarsalis, when infected naturally by Wolbachia, was actually a better vector of West Nile virus. The same thing was discovered with malaria when Culex was naturally infected. So my point is that these millions and trillions of Wolbachia-infected Aedes, mosquitoes, eggs, or larvae, I understand in some places they're just releasing the eggs, perhaps in some places just the larvae, I don't know. Because a lot of this is privately funded. It's funded by Bill and Melinda Gates and 4 governments, including the US government. So here's the point. Those Wolbachia-infected Aedes are considered now a new species. Never had these before. Introducing a new species into ecosystems that have other species are going to have ramifications down the road. And the problem is there are species of birds and aquatic species that feed preferentially on the Aedes genus of mosquito, eggs, or larvae, if you follow me. So, this is really troublesome because we could be causing a lot more harm than good. Here's another quote from her. In terms of disease indicators, Zika is more like West Nile virus and St. Louis encephalitis, but possibly more like dengue and yellow fever in terms of reservoir hosts. Or is it? A forgotten paper, and Dr. Fiona Hunter sent this to me, by Okia et al. In 1971 reported that 15% of 221 birds collected in Uganda tested positive for Zika virus antibodies by the hemagglutination inhibition assays. Sorry, I'm not saying that right. With the majority of positive birds being green bulls. And this is in the bulbul family, Pictonidae. I'm not sure I'm saying it right, sorry. The Okia et al. 1971 study would support the addition of a bird silhouette to the Zika virus branch in Figure 1. And I'm going to show you that. Because she has looked at all the data now, and I sincerely believe that this is far too overlooked around the world. When I researched where Dr. Ayres found the outbreaks in Yap Island and so on, it's the red-whiskered and red-vented bulbuls that appear to be introduced species which do very little wandering that are right smack in the middle of these Zika virus outbreaks. And yet a lot of these places are only targeting Aedes. And what's worse, they're even pushing more Wolbachia-infected releases. And I found out Puducherry, there's an area near there where a man just was diagnosed with Zika. I'm not surprised one bit, because they started doing Wolbachia-infected releases in that area of Tamil Nadu. So I'll show you that too. So here's another quote from her. "The world cannot afford to concentrate all its efforts on monitoring and controlling Aedes aegypti in the fight against Zika virus, especially if there are Culex mosquitoes that may also serve as competent vectors." Now, if you study anything about Culex, they tend to bite birds early in the season. I know I'm generalizing, and then later on in the season, the birds get smart to them and they start to go after people more. So that would be July to October. And yes, I am generalizing a little there. And lastly, I want to quote from her again. "Furthermore, based on a data-driven model linking mosquito vector species and vector virus traits by Evans et al. 2017, they have predicted that as many as 35 different mosquito species could be vectors for Zika." And her final point is this: medical entomologists, public health professionals, and politicians, and yes, I'm talking to you, Jane Philbot, who has ignored me, are urged to keep an open mind on the issue of which mosquito species need to be targeted for control in the battle against Zika. Thank you.